This is the foundational producer mindset video. I want to make this video where every producer should internalize all these bullet points in this box I'm gonna be sharing. They've kept me doing this for as long as I have been. I've been producing since 2018, March 2018, since I was 12 years old, and now I am 20. These are things that I've internalized personally and that have kept me, like I said, in the game for as long as I have been. I feel like mindset isn't really talked about enough in the producer community. Like, I see stories like every once in a while on the bigger producers like Instagrams talking about mindset related stuff, but I don't really see any like YouTube videos or mainstream resources or content about the mindset that a producer should have. The first bullet is finding a sound and specialty. So I personally focus on R&B and soul samples, R&B beats, and overall melodic stuff. I also focus on vocal samples or unique flipped textures in my samples. I love making those types of samples, and if I didn't make any money from those types of samples or weren't to get any placements from those types of samples, I would still make them because that's just like what I love to spend my time on, and that's what I genuinely love to make. So I feel like finding a sound as a producer is extremely important so people can know you for a specific thing. Even just like people finding you off of, if you do content or just in general, producers reaching out to you and knowing you for a specific type of sound, they're gonna ask you for those types of vibes. Instead of just being all over the place and making whatever you want, I feel like finding a sound for myself was extremely important. I feel like you should also specialize in certain things within that sound. Wanted to focus on vocal stuff because I always loved vocals and beats from songs like Dark Queen by Uzi or Halloween by Kodak, those Rex Kudo vocals. I've always loved that, and that later translated into me loving to make these R&B types of Drake samples that sounded like soul records from the 70s and 80s. I try to just experiment with the textures and the little details in the samples to make it catch people's attention more. On top of trying to do vocals, I feel like having a sound and also specializing in certain things within that sound is important as a producer. Next is quality over quantity. So I try to make 1 to 2 amazing samples and or beats a day. I have certain seasons where I focus on making just beats for the smaller artists I work with, but I mainly focus on making samples every week. I feel like you should take your time and truly enjoy and be present when you're making music and putting your all into every single project instead of just like pumping out 15 to 20 okay beats every single day. It's all once again dependent on the producer and their workflow and how much they can make each day without getting burnt out. Next, I make what I want. I make the music I want to make and send out to who cooks with the same type of music. I send R&B samples to R&B/melodic producers. Next, this is a marathon, not a sprint. It's self-explanatory. Always be in this and remember why you started to produce in the first place, which is you love to make music, you love to make beats, samples, whatever. So always coming back to that original reason for starting and realizing this is a marathon and not a sprint will benefit you in the long run. Next, I live my life while chasing the shit. So I don't stay locked in my room or the studio 24/7 all week. I try to live my life. I try to have a social life, spend time with family, friends. Music is a priority in my life, but I also try to have a social life and spend time with people and spend time outside of my room and touch grass because that's what will give you inspiration at the end of the day. And I feel like if you're always in the studio trying to squeeze music out of your brain, it'll end up sounding like shit and you won't be creatively inspired and you'll eventually get burnt out. So living your life while chasing a production career is very essential in my opinion. So next, beat block. These are things that work for me and they won't always work for everyone else, but some things I try to do is take a break if it's really bad beat block. Usually I try to get new kits, VSTs. I try to make the shit a game, only use one synth plugin, for example, and make a whole sample from just one plugin, or maybe only using one effects plugin, or just flipping a starter, or just using only voice memos or something creative in that sense, just trying to experiment and get out of that beat block. These are only things that work for me. Some people might need to take a break for however long to just get away from their computer and then live life, like I said in the bullet before, and then come back and they'll be ready to create some stuff. It's all dependent on the person. but those are just some things that work for me when I beat block. So next, I try to have an entrepreneurial mindset and not just focus on the music all the time, but also focus on the business behind it and how I can monetize my music, whether that be from selling beats, selling sound kits, working with artists, working with smaller indie artists or major label artists. It's always important to have a business-oriented mindset and not just always focus on creating. As much as I would love to do that, that's just not a smart thing to do. Next is consistency over everything. So I feel like putting in the reps every single day, showing up every day, whether that be showing up in making music, showing up in the back-end business stuff with your music, consistently sending out packs, consistently networking, DMing people. I feel like consistency in anything in your life, not even just music, is important, and that will get you the farthest. Repurposing your music, making beats from flipping old samples, starters from sample stems, send out sample from beat I make. Basically, repurposing your music is something that I've recently started to do a lot more, and it's basically just using every single piece from each piece of music you make. Say I make a beat, I obviously export the beat and send it to an artist. I then export the sample, send it to a producer, export the stem as a starter, send that to a sample maker, and just using every single piece of a sample or beat that you make and putting it in every possible use. Last but not least is reading books. I use these as tools to keep me positive and apply stuff to my personal life too. There are self-improvement books, things like Think and Grow Rich, one of Russ's books, The Power of Now, stuff like that. If you're not into the self-improvement books, that's okay, but I just wanted to put those because they genuinely changed my life and they changed the mindset I have on music and just life in general. They're very moving books, so I definitely recommend those. I use books as tools to just keep me positive in times of struggle, especially with a music career, and I try to apply the stuff that's taught in these books into my personal life too, not just my music career. It's an extremely important thing to have as a producer, is being positive and being healthily delusional.